So, we've said before, one of the big things for the UK is we are not a country that makes things. We are an assembly country. Things get sent here, we build them, or we finish them off, and then we send them back, maybe to be built somewhere else, or maybe this is where the final assembly line is. That's not what makes up our economy. Our economy is a service-based one, meaning that most of the companies that exist in the UK, and even most of the employment that exists in the UK, is companies providing someone a service. So what is a service that someone might provide? Well, it can be simple as maybe someone is providing someone with IT services. Maybe there are servers that that company in the UK operates, or they are providing a piece of software that allows a company to do something extra. Maybe they are using HR as an external HR company. That is, again, a service. Maybe it's external marketing support. Again, a service. It can be banking services. Maybe it's insurance services. Maybe it's legal services, which is what we are going to talk about today, because legal services make up a very significant amount of that service economy that we run here in the UK. And more often than not, legal services are really interconnected into a lot of trade deals. And the very fact that now Boris Johnson is now at the mercy, essentially, of the EU leaders, because he has spent the last, years antagonizing against them, and now he has to rejoin something called the Lugano Convention, which is essentially very important if you want to have your lawyers and judges and your decisions respected in other countries. And now he is at their mercy, and this could severely impact our economy. And no one is talking about this. So this may be the very first time you are hearing about this. Again, it's the very first time when I heard about this, when I found about this, but this is incredibly important. So keep your ears peeled on this one, because this could again become something quite big. So before we do jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So on with the story. So this actually comes from CNN, and the title is "The Explosive Brexit Spat That No One Is Talking About That Could Slam the UK Economy." Boris Johnson has spent decades agitating against the European Union, and in the last 5 years battling to free the United Kingdom from the shackles of regulation from Brussels. And now he is in the awkward position of finding himself at the mercy of EU leaders for permission to rejoin an international treaty or risk devastating Britain's multi-billion-dollar legal services industry. The arrangement in question is called the Lugano Convention, and essentially it establishes the jurisdiction of national courts, guaranteeing legal recognition and enforcement of a wide range of civil and commercial judgment in cross-border disputes. London is widely regarded as the global capital for international dispute resolution. Thanks to England's world-class legal system and courts, it is broad and hugely lucrative industry, dealing with everything from family disputes to international business operations. And long-term failure to rejoin the Lugano Convention could represent a grave threat to the UK's world-beating legal services sector, as well as creating difficulties for large companies and ordinary people alike. The UK dropped out of the treaty as a consequence of Brexit and applied to rejoin in April of 2020. Yet, while the non-EU signatory states Iceland, Norway and Sweden agreed to its readmission, to date the European Commission has recommended that the EU deny this request and said that the bloc was, quote, not in a position to give its consent to the EU accession, to the UK's accession. And this is tricky for the British Prime Minister, both politically and economically. According to the Law Society, legal services added nearly 60 billion to the UK economy, and while in 2018 and 2017, exports of legal services hit £5 billion. So Scott Devey from the City UK, a body that represents UK-based financial and professional services, say that the legal service sector employs over 350,000 people. That is, 2/3 of those jobs are also outside of London. And these positions are not in major commercial law firms, the sector Devine says. If anything, it's from a big multinational law firm working on international contracts and mergers to the high street solicitor, the sole operator dealing with family issues, such as wills and property. The reputation of English laws has, Devine says, made the preferred law of business and international contracts, and according to Devine in 2019, 70% of all claims, issues and commercial courts had one party from outside England and Wales, while 43% were based entirely externally. Some of Brexit's most ardent critics are concerned that the failure to join Lugano and the poor relationship between the UK and the European countries following Brexit could even diminish this standing as an important sector. Dominic Grieve, the former Attorney General of England and Wales, say that his concern is the long-term viability of London as a centre for dispute resolution. He continues that the longer this goes on, the more potentially damaging it may become, because there is no doubt that the UK, when it was in the EU, was seen as the place for dispute resolution of every choice of EU litigation of every conceivable kind. One problem London now faces is that the outside of the convention, and it is no clear any sign of any decision to any time soon. The EU nations can simply directly compete with the UK for capital and business. The alternatives are slowly becoming clear for international companies that want to operate in the EU and don't want any blockages, says Joseph Galze, a former Spanish judge admitted to the English bar at Del Carno Chambers in London, and Galzev Pascal in Spain. The Lugano limbo and the UK finds itself in is one of the worst possible situations, as lawyers on both sides have absolutely no clarity on what will happen in the long term. I think the EU wants to make the UK suffer and give the UK jurisdictions more opportunity to take business from England. Galves believes that over time, more difficulties will arise that will undermine the confidence in English courts, and he points to a decision in a recent Swiss court where an English ruling was not upheld, which he believes shows the rough ride ahead for the UK judgments to be enforced across Europe. I'm afraid Brexit has brought a new goat trail, where there once was a highway for UK judgments. Others are sort of more optimistic. Demeen says that the confidence in our judiciary, which is seen as incorruptible and experts in the commercial field, should mean that the UK retains its appeal. However, Devine and others have a wider concerns about the UK status outside of the convention. Catherine McGuinness, the policy chair of the City of London Corporation, thinks that the biggest losers will be the individuals seeking justice as consumers or in their personal lives. I'd be more concerned about the implications of ordinary people and smaller businesses operating across borders, she says, and that was being a very big adding that very big firms will be able to amend their contracts to ensure that they still work. It is the person who is buying something across borders or considering how to divorce their partner across borders who is going to find that they don't have access to really pragmatic routes to clarify their legal situation. Sarah Galvey, the chair of the Law Society's Private International Law Committee, agrees that the strained political relations between the UK and the EU won't have as a negative impact on big commercial contracts, but could severely harm those seeking legal recourse as customers or in family disputes. There was initial concern amongst commercial partners that the English judgments would be more difficult to enforce in the EU, but they have been reassured by the UK rejoining the Hague Convention and have been adapting their contracts. Alongside the high businesses and reputational and individual cost itself, for Jonson himself, there is also strong potential for personal embarrassment. It would be a political nightmare for the UK's Prime Minister and architect of Brexit to be seen at the very mercy of Europe, as he claims to have saved them from the dreaded EU back in 2016. It is very politically uncomfortable for Johnson that the EU is starting to react to what it sees as our bad behaviour, says Andrew Moran, a professor of international politics at King's College London. Lots of Brexiteers said from the start of the Brexit process that London taking a hardline stance won't result in retaliation from Brussels. This is one of the first examples where we are being damaged internationally, and the EU holds all the keys. And it gives us an idea of how much they think our reputation has changed, he adds. The standoff does not appear to be driven by political disputes between the UK and the EU, and critics on both sides are quick to point out that people's most effects are going to be British and European citizens. In the cases involving victims of corporate and human rights abuses, business versus consumer rights, and in family law, those cases and the party that has most financial resources may try to include arguments about which country should be hearing the case, whether a UK court judge can be enforced, says Zach Myers, a research fellow from the Centre of European Reform. I think the Commission is being very short-sighted, and this treaty is solely a way to withhold a favour from the UK, because it doesn't just negatively affect the UK, it will also affect EU nationals too. Unfortunately, relations between Brussels and London are in dire straits. The UK is currently trying to renegotiate part of the Brexit deal that Johnson himself signed in 2019, which is uniting EU member states against the UK once more. The UK government's official position remains that it wants to rejoin the Lugano Convention. Downing Street says the convention is not something that should be policed by the EU, and that the UK should be admitted as soon as possible. The less humble request to join than expected may create more anger in Brussels, trying to punish it for Brexit. And of course, a Downing Street spokesperson told CNN, "We maintain that we meet the criteria for accession, both because it is open to countries outside the EU and non-EU member states already supporting UK's membership support. Supporting the UK accession is sensible and pragmatic for a solution for all citizens." Incredibly, this important issue is likely to rumble on for some time, as it may not be as exciting as the sausage wars or the fishermen ramming each other's boats. But over time, the consequences of a poor relationship between London and Brussels will become much more obvious to both citizens on both sides. The question for both parties now is how much longer can you maintain political stances that ultimately harm your own citizens for the sole purpose of saving face and making a point? And of course, here's the thing. This is ultimately Boris's fault. I mean, the EU said will ultimately let them in, but at the moment, because of how we are acting, the EU's got no incentive to do any of this, especially now with Boris Johnson trying to renegotiate the Northern Ireland Protocol, something that only a couple of months ago he was very fine and happy and said that would be fine and it would be the best deal in the world. Again, like I say, Brexit is going to cause more and more problems like this, and some problems start off small, like us not being a treaty, but will have huge implications down the line, more for UK citizens more than anything else. Will it affect some EU citizens? Yes, it will in long term, but ultimately it will affect the UK far, far significantly more, and especially, as you saw there, if we start to lose contracts, which ultimately we will lose. Like you say, you already had that Swiss court which refused to uphold a UK judgment. How long before that becomes the standard? And then you start to lose contracts in the service industry. These big law firms now start to go and get European offices. Again, it will end up being a very bad move for the UK in all. But of course, that's Brexit for you in a nutshell. So, of course, thank you very much for watching. And, of course, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And, of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.